Hello everyone, I'm Deryck Mitchelson and it's an absolute pleasure to be doing the third of the In Conversation interviews that we're doing this year for Cowal 2021. And we've left the best to last, and I'm absolutely delighted to have with me today 7 times world champion Marielle Lesperance. Hi Marielle, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing good. How are you?
Yeah, very good, thank you. Just keen, first of all, Mario, just to see how things have been. Obviously, last time I saw you was back at Kibble 2019 when you won World Championship number 7. And obviously, since then, the world's been totally changed up and down. So, how's things been? How things been across in Canada with you, with your family? Have you coped with things?
Well, I've been well, luckily. So I know it's been stressful for everyone, and it's been, we've had a lot to deal with over the pandemic, but we've made it through. It seems like we're coming out the other side of it now. So just glad for that. And yeah, glad to be healthy and doing well. So
Brilliant. And what have you been doing to keep yourself busy? Obviously, a lack of competitions, but there's still been lessons via the video conferencing, via Skype, etc. And I know you've got a bit of a dancing skill that you've been building up in the last couple of years or so as well. So, what have you been doing to keep yourselves busy, Marielle?
yeah, well, I've sort of kept everything going with my own school. We've had to have a few different portions of our year over Zoom doing our virtual classes. So um, it's been tough to stay motivated, definitely for a lot of the students, even down to the pre-premier. It's not just the high level dancers that have a hard time with lockdown. It's everyone that's having a tough time. So just been keeping that going with my students, and we've been lucky over here in Nova Scotia on the east coast of Canada we've been doing relatively well. So we've actually had a lot more in-person time than a lot of different places in the world. So I can't really complain too much about that.
Well, that's absolutely great. Particularly the youngsters. The youngsters need, the Zoom and Skype are absolutely fine for doing some things, but the youngsters need that face-to-face time. They need to have contact, not just with you as a teacher, but contact with other youngsters as well. That's what puts the fun in it, and this is what it's all about at that age. It's about learning in a fun environment. So you've been quite lucky if you've been able to do some face-to-faces, I would suggest.
Yeah, we have been, and it makes such a difference whenever we get back in person. And that's what I always try and say whenever we're back onto the virtual classes. I always try and remind everyone that, it's just temporary. We'll be back in person, and then you can just see them get so happy whenever they're back with their friends, and it really lifts everyone's spirits. So yeah, it's been really nice. And then apart from that, I've been doing my own dancing too. I know, like at the start of lockdown, it was sort of, we didn't know how long it was going to go for, and then gradually the big competitions started getting canceled. So I was just trying to keep myself busy with like keeping the dancing going and trying to explore different ways of cross training and things like that, and just things that I wouldn't do in a normal year because I might be worried I'd injure myself, or I didn't want to stray too far from my regular training plan. So yeah, it kind of gave a bit more flexibility. But I know, like, I've been dancing for a long time. I'm more of a mature dancer. So yeah, I think for me it might be different than some of the younger dancers. I think I probably had an easier time with that just because I've been so many times to the big competitions. So but yeah, I've had fun with that. And
And had you been doing Zoom lessons prior to obviously COVID? Is that something that you'd been doing anyway with Ellen, obviously, with distance, etc. So is that something that you'd been used to?
yeah, well, I think that's one other thing that's made it easier for me is that I haven't lived in the same place as my teacher Ellen for a long time. So um, yeah, I'm kind of used to this, like having to practice on my own and having to motivate myself. And um, I usually, we do some of the virtual lessons, but usually I'm sending her a lot of videos back and forth and in my own practices so she can kind of comment and critique, and then I kind of work on it on my own. So I've been used to that strategy, and yeah, it hasn't
that's
been
worked well
much
for
of
you.
a change, to be honest, for my
Uh,
preparation and my practice.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I mean, if that's something you've been used to, then it's. I think again, that's obviously been a positive that you can continue that way. I'm really interested in maybe just asking a wee bit more around that. So, was how many lessons would you do online virtually with Ellen in a week, and how many times would you be sending these videos back and forward? I'm just keen to get some sort of feeling as to how your weekly dancing practice schedule would be, Marielle.
Well, yeah, that's pretty tough to answer. Like, it's changed a lot over the years. Growing up, like when I actually lived around her, I'd be there probably, especially coming up to championship season, I'd be there at least 3 times a week, which was, she actually lived about an hour's drive from where I lived. So it was a lot of commuting back and forth. And in recent years, I don't really know how often we'd have our lessons online. It wasn't even like a weekly thing, really. Um, I don't know. I couldn't tell you how many. It's sort of even like sometimes I'll just be practicing and it's not really a planned thing. I'll just send her a little video and say, "Hey, what do you think?" And then she writes back right away, kind of thing. So yeah, it's less formal, I'd say, but also I would in a regular year see her a lot more at the championships over the year, and so we get a lot of time in together there, and she'd kind of critique my dancing and let me know what she thought I should work on. And
And
yeah,
the number of
I
years,
know that's not a great
yeah,
answer.
the number of years that Ellen's been teaching you, you're bound to have built up, I guess, what I would describe as a really special relationship. I mean, Ellen will be your teacher, your mentor, but there'll also be a lot more than that there as well. In many ways, she'll be one of your best friends as well as being everything else that she does.
Yeah, I've been very blessed to have that kind of relationship with her. Like, we've yeah, it's been, I don't know how many years now, that probably about 25 years now that I've been going to her for lessons. And I think it's just, there's something about having that student teacher chemistry and that relationship. If you can find, someone who understands you, and you almost don't have to say that much, because I can come off the stage and look at her and I already know what she thinks just from looking at her face without her even having said anything. And she's sort of the same with me. She knows, sometimes at a championship she might look over at me and think, "Oh, I don't think I should go and give Marielle a correction right now. I don't think that's what she needs." So but that takes time to learn and to develop too. But yeah, we definitely have a very special relationship, and I'm very lucky to have found someone like her, because I wouldn't have gotten where I was without her. So yeah, I'm very thankful for that, for sure.
And who would you say your biggest critic is? Would that be Ellen or yourself?
I would say it's myself. I think Ellen would agree with that too. She actually often will, especially in recent years, she'll kind of get after me more so for just being overly critical of my dancing. So I would say that's something that I've tried to work on, just the psychology of that, coming off stage and not saying to her, "Oh, that wasn't very good," or "That was terrible." She tries to I don't know, bring some level-headedness to my, and some positivity to my dancing and how I see my dancing. And yeah, I think she'd agree with me that I'm more critical than she is at this point.
And I think you need that. You need that, Mario. That's a sign of a great coach that's able to actually give critique when it's needed, but also to build you up. As I always say when I'm speaking to people, that you need to have that mental preparation, be mentally right as well to do the top competitions, not just have the fitness and the technique and the competitiveness, and you really need somebody as part of your team that's able to be that calming influence that can take positives from knowing that everything's maybe not gone perfectly well, but there's still 95% of things that have been done brilliantly. So let's focus on these. Very much a sign of a great coach, I would suggest. Mario, I'm going to do a reminiscing with you now and take you back through some of the years of Highland dancing, in particular the Cowal years. And I'm going to start with 2003, when you actually won your first World Championship at Cowal, and just to see what you can remember about that. I think the first Worlds are always special. It's at that point, you've made it. You're up there on that big platform, and all that hard work's been rewarded. But really keen to recall what you can remember about that. How can you remember how you recall you danced? How you thought you did. Obviously, we all come off positively, hoping it's been our day, but sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. What can you remember about 2003, Marielle?
Well, to be honest, I think that first year was such a shock to me that I can't remember a lot of the details. Like it's sort of funny that, yeah, I really don't remember much about even like the awards. I think I was just in a state of shock because the year before I had gone and I had made it to the finals. I'd qualified to the finals, but I hadn't actually placed. So it wasn't really in my brain that this was a possibility at all. So I think I was really just shocked. But what I do remember from that year is doing the parade through the town with Colleen and Laura, the other two world champions that year. And I think that's when it started kind of hitting me that it was real and it wasn't just this dream. Yeah, that was just such a special moment walking through the town with them because they were two of my dance idols growing up. And I think just the fact being able to share that with them. And that year there was also the three of us were Canadian, which was, special in itself that three Canadians got to share, each have a world title. Yeah, I just remember more about the parade, but I can't remember the results. I can't remember how I danced. I think it was just, I don't know.
It was a nice surprise. It's what I'm hearing then, which is lovely. What do you remember about dancing the Kibble final fling then? I mean, obviously, I know you've got one of your heroes there that won the Worlds that year, Colleen. But to be up there, to be one of the three dancing with, as you say, with Colleen and Laura as well, it's always a special moment, that doing that 4-step fling.
Yeah, I actually remember. I think it was that year. I can't remember if it was that year, but I don't really remember even the championship fling, if I'm being honest. Like, I do remember one year though. I was up. I think it was that year, but I can't be sure. But this is just a memory that came to me when I was dancing the reel. I happened to be up on stage, and Colleen was up at the same time, and I remember kind of coming towards her and meeting eyes with her, and for some reason, even just that little moment kind of gave me an extra boost, just thinking, wow, I wasn't dancing against her in the same category, obviously, but I was just thinking, wow, I'm up on stage with Colleen right now. So, but yeah.
That's absolutely brilliant. Now, obviously, you're one of the most successful Highland dancers ever. You've not won the same number of world championships as Colleen. You might have been close. If it hadn't been for COVID, you might have been potentially up to number 9 if you'd done well the last couple of years. But 7 world championships is fantastic. But obviously, after winning in the under-16s, there was a gap of quite a few years before you won the worlds again, which is really unusual for somebody that's come on to win so many titles. Normally they'll be regularly winning, or they'll be doing things. Obviously, you had David Wilton in there as well that won quite a few of the championships. I think David won 2004, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That period in there, and then 11 as well. But during that period after you won the under-16s and you were coming back regularly to Cowal and not quite been able to actually get across the line. What was your thoughts there? Was there ever any doubts that this was all going to work out? Was it more motivation to come back year on year and be better and better and better and try and get that extra step? Really keen to understand, what you were thinking.
Well, I think in general, growing up, we always had a really strong group of dancers, like in my age group, and we kind of moved together. David being one of them, obviously, and I think so the competition was really tough, as it always is at Cowal, but I definitely think there is a bit of a mental, once. First of all, there's a lot of pressure after you win, and when you're younger, you don't necessarily know how to cope with that pressure, and that's something that I would say I definitely struggled with, even before winning my first Worlds. I had a hard time learning how to deal with the pressure, and I think after that too, I think it might have been about 9 years that I went either second or third at Cowal, but not quite breaking into winning it again. And I think when you go for that long, you stop believing in yourself, and then it's sort of this cycle where I think there's a balance between having a lot of pressure on, and also because you get more pressure when you start winning, but at the same time you need that boost in confidence. So I think there's sort of a balance there. And I think it was a lot of maturity that, when I got into the adult category, I think I just had matured, and I sort of learned not to focus so much on the results and to say, you know what, I just want to be able to dance the best I can now, and to push myself and see what my body can actually do. Versus when I was, younger, I was thinking, I'd really like to get that world title back. And I think the shift in mindset, just trying to focus on my dancing and my training, it actually made me push myself harder, because I was focusing on the thing I could control, which is the dancing, versus at the end of the day, you can't really control the results. You can only control your dancing. So I think focusing on that and just trying to believe in myself that I could give more than what I was giving, I think that really, really helped me in the end. And I think my dancing improved since that time. So that's sort of my main focus nowadays. When I go back to Cowal, I sort of have it in my head that I always want to be dancing better the following year than I was before. And that's my rule of thumb, that if I feel like I'm not, then I don't really want to go and show what I'm doing, because I want everyone to see me looking better than the last time versus the opposite.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I fully understand that. It's also quite difficult going into the adult section when you're dancing against a really good strong male. I totally agree with what you're saying around maturing and strengthening. There's no doubt I think in the early years that males going into the adults, really good strong males when they're 18, 19, 20, it is difficult to compete with them. But I think as you've demonstrated, being able to come back and win the Worlds again in 2012, and then very much dominate in the adult worlds from there, is just something that's absolutely unique and special. And hats off to you for absolutely doing that. What can you remember about that first Worlds win? That first adult Worlds must be something that's up there as one of your most special ever championships. You went that period at 9 years from 2003. Then suddenly you are the adult world champion. You've made it. That's the pinnacle. That's the biggest prize you get in Highland dancing. Is that your most special ever win, do you think, Marielle?
I think that one would, it'd definitely be up there, along with the first one. But like I said, the first one I don't remember as much of. But yeah, that first adult win, it's also something about being in the adult category. Like, being any world champion is absolutely amazing. And being the adult has just a special feel to it, I guess. And to have gone for that long and to just have being persistent in my goal. Yeah, it was really special. And I think one of the things that makes it so special, or made it so special, is just the support. You know, there's so many people. I was actually going through old like cards and letters, and it's just the support of the Highland dance community is just amazing. And when anyone wins the world championship, you've got so many people just congratulating you, including your competitors, and just, you know, the nice messages you get. And it's really heartwarming, I guess. And it makes those wins even more special. Yeah.
And you find it gets harder to motivate yourself. I mean, obviously, when it comes down to winning World Championship number 6, World Championship number 7, it'd be very easy to say, do you know what, it's harder now, my body can't quite take this, why am I doing this? I've achieved more than I probably ever dreamed I was going to achieve when I started Highland dancing at the young age of 4 and 5. You know, what was your motivation to keep pushing? Every year it gets harder, Marielle. How did you manage that?
I think I'm just always sort of chasing. There's things in my dancing that I'm not completely satisfied with yet. And I think that's what I'm still chasing, is just trying to achieve that perfection, even though it's never going to happen. But there's definitely things in my dancing that I've just every year after year, maybe I've improved them a little bit, but I'm still looking at them and thinking, I just want to, you know, before I hang up my shoes, I just want to fix that, or I just want to improve that. And I think I get a lot of inspiration from my competitors, and a lot of motivation too, because the competition, it seems like every year it gets stiffer and stiffer. You know, everyone's just working, and they're doing the same thing I am. They're trying to improve their own dancing. So as much as it's a lot of the same dancers year after year, everyone is improving every year, and the standard seems to get higher. And I know that. So when I'm training at home, I'm just thinking, you know, everyone else is pushing twice as hard, so I have to push twice as hard, because we all have to beat last year's performance. And I think and you know, on days where I feel not as motivated, I sort of think back to years where I've been disappointed in my own dancing, because there's definitely been years where I haven't pushed myself as hard, or at least I don't feel like I have. And, you know, you get disappointed, like you let yourself down. So I try and just think of that and remember that and think, I don't want that to happen again. So I'm just going to, you know, push myself here and make sure I do it properly. Because I think regret is the worst thing. Once you show up on the day of the competition and you're standing there in the lineup and you're seeing your competitors, if you haven't prepared, you're thinking like, why did I do this to myself? So I just try and picture that, and I find that works well for the motivation.
I think so. And just so you know as well, you inspire and motivate others, Marielle. You talked about back in your first Worlds dancing alongside Colleen and walking around the stadium and down the street with Colleen. For many years, we've had young world champions in the under-16s and under-18s that have been dancing the final fling with Marielle Lesperance, and seeing their face dancing alongside you, just like you danced alongside Colleen, you know, is absolutely amazing. It's amazing how actually things come back round, and you know, it's just we're so lucky to have you for so many years coming across and doing what you do at Kibble. You know, it's an absolutely special thing, Marielle.
Well, thank you for saying that. That's very kind, but I don't think I see myself in that way. I think I just, you know, some days or some years when I'm at Cowal, I like to be able to watch my competitors. I know, you know, when you're there competing, it's hard because you're trying to focus on your own dancing and just the job you have to do. But I really do enjoy watching my competitors dance, and sometimes I'm just standing back there thinking like, wow, this is just, the standard is incredible, and being able to dance with all those dancers, I think Yeah, I don't quite believe being up there. So
I'm going to change the topic a bit, Marielle, from the competitions into the dance company that you're one of the founding members of. I think it's called Change of Step. Is that
yeah.
right? It's great. That must be something that's just so different from the competitiveness. It's great to do choreography, work with live musicians. Can you tell us some things about that, please?
Yeah, well, I don't remember when we started it. Probably,
2014?
yeah, it's been a while now, actually, and we haven't had too much going on, just like most performing groups over this pandemic and lockdown. So, but that's been incredibly rewarding. That's something that I started with a few of my dancing friends, and as competitive dancers, we don't get a lot of opportunities to perform necessarily. And I've always loved choreography. I've always loved, you know, live music and traditional music. And I think that there's, room for that to be able to show the general public what Highland dancing is all about. And I think most people, when they think of Highland dancing, they think of just, like Highland dancing at the Highland Games with our kilts on and just dancing to the bagpipes. So I don't think they realize how creative it can really be and what you can do with it. And a lot of the really competitive dancers I think it's changing more now, actually. And that's, been really cool to see that competitive dancers are now doing more performing and doing more choreography. And yeah, it's just so nice to see, because I think being able to show people that Highland dancing is more than just being at the Highland Games doing a fling in a kilt or doing the sword dance. Yeah, I think it's been rewarding, and we've had lots of amazing opportunities getting to dance with different bands, because traditional bands are kind of doing the same thing. They've got a bit of a modern flair, and I think it gets more people excited about the culture too when they're seeing all these different sides of it.
Yeah, I think so as well. And there's something that's there's something that's nice, invigorating, even I think when you're doing some of these performances to some of the Celtic, the traditional bands, the Irish, the folk bands that not just dancing to the bagpipes, dancing to some of the traditional music that goes along there. And I always find anything I did that was in these fields just give you a total lift from doing that, which is totally different from doing the competitions, which is always the bagpipe, in the corner that you're doing to the traditional tunes. So there's something nice about that, Marielle.
Definitely. And I think it's also when there's been a few festivals that we've done that haven't been necessarily like, I want to say folk festivals or Celtic festivals. So the crowd is people mostly who have never seen Highland dancing before, and just seeing their reaction and them being excited, and them just having a good time with it, and the comments that you get after. I think it's really cool. It's a cool experience.
So you'll be very much looking forward to that picking back up again and being able to get these performances out, going again, make some new choreographies, etc. I've seen quite a few of the videos on YouTube that are absolutely fantastic. You must be quite excited about that kicking off again.
Definitely. Yep. Ready to get back to performing and all that fun stuff again.
Good. Now, Mario, we're coming to the end of the interview, but I was going to offer my congratulations to you. Obviously, you've got some fantastic news about a little baby that's coming along in a few
Yeah.
weeks, hopefully. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm expecting a baby, so I'm pretty excited about that. It's been a good way to spend lockdown.
That's
Having
that's an absolutely life-changing event. I can remember having my first one, my daughter Carrie, and it doesn't matter how people tell you and how well you think you're prepared. You're never fully prepared, but it's an absolutely amazing time. So it's something that will just change your life forever in the most brilliant ways. You must be so excited about that.
I'm very excited. Yes. Yeah, it's been, as much as I haven't been able to dance as much as I'd like to in recent months, I'm very happy, very excited, and hoping to get back to some dancing after the baby arrives, but we'll see how it goes.
And that's what I was going to ask next. I was going to ask next is, do you see yourself then coming back out? The competitions are opening back up again. Championships next year. Do you see yourself back out there with the baby in the pram, and you'll be able to nurse the baby in between doing some of the dances, Marielle?
We'll see. I was pretty inspired by just watching the Olympics recently. The number of mothers that are competing at high levels at the Olympics is pretty cool to see. So we'll see, but I know there's a lot of unknowns, and yeah, we'll just have to take it one day at a time.
And so some of them are actually competing and running faster than they've ever run before. So it's there's definitely something about motherhood that seems to give them an edge. So potentially next year at Cowal, that's something we might look forward to as well, Mario.
We'll see, maybe.
And yeah, just lastly, what's any messages just for any dancers looking to get back out again? I know you're starting competitions up in Canada, but just really keen for any messages of encouragement, etc. You might want to give any of these dancers that are just coming back out.
Well, I think everyone's probably feeling pretty excited by this point. I think we've made it through the hardest part now. We're just getting back to actually being able to go back to competitions. So I think just for everyone just to try and enjoy it. I think, I've been telling my students here that we've been off for so long, we're almost going to have to relearn how to compete again. And I know everyone's had a really different experience with the pandemic. It's been really tough, especially on some. And I think that's what we all need to focus on going back to competitions, is just trying to appreciate, and I know we all will, but appreciate being with our dancing friends and just being able to get up on stage, and especially right at first, not to worry too much about the awards, because at the end of the day, that's not what people missed over this last year and a half. It wasn't the awards as much as just missing being on stage with their friends and dancing, and and then having something to work towards. I think we'll all get back into it, but at first just to enjoy it and appreciate what we've got, because you never know when a pandemic's going to hit, and then you can't do all this. So
no, I totally agree with you. I think now's the time for getting back out, getting back into it, enjoying it, and realizing the love that we all have for Highland dancing and what it gives us back. So I totally agree. Well, Marielle, it's been an absolute pleasure doing this in conversation interview with you today. I'm going to be looking on social media and keeping an eye out for when we get the news about the arrival of the little one, which is very exciting. And obviously looking forward to seeing you across in Scotland at some point again, either back competing or back just watching the events. But from us, many thanks for taking part. It's an absolute pleasure as always, Marielle, and take care, and we'll speak to you soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much.